let's hop into it. We have a lot to cover after the first week of college football. So I'm going to get into the recap portion of the show, which is your Saturday summary. And before I hop into any specific games, we got to talk about Lee Corso, the man, the myth, the national treasure. It was his last week hosting game day. He hosted college game day since 1987. Of course, before that, Coach Corso was a player for Florida State from 1953 to 1957, then a grad assistant for them, then a Maryland quarterback coach, then a Navy defensive back coach, then the Louisville head coach from 69 to 72, the Indiana head coach from 73 to 82, and the NIU head coach in 1984. But he has been a staple of college football game day Saturdays for definitely as long as I can remember. It's probably as long as my parents can remember. He made his final picks in his 431st headgear selection, and he went 6-0. You know, there's a lot of talk, and I contribute to this, not in a mean way, not in a mean-spirited way, but Corso is not what he used to be. Sometimes it kind of looks like he doesn't know where he is. And again, I don't say that to be mean, but it's just, you know, I'm concerned about the guy, and he definitely needs to go into retirement. He's 90 years old. But like I said, I say he doesn't seem all there, but he went 6-0 on his predictions, like I said. I'm very sad to see him retire. I mean, college football will not be the same without him. But I'm also very glad he's going to get this rest that he deserves, because these last few years he has not been the same. So, in honor of the old coach, not so fast, my friend. Let's get into the games. First game we got up, number 25 Boise State at South Florida. What a shocker this one was. Boise State favored by 5.5. Of course, they went to the college football playoff last year with Ashton Jeanty leading the way. But safe to say, they got shell-shocked. South Florida came to this game and beat them 34-7. It was a pretty close game at half. South Florida only leading 10-7. But a couple of fumbles. I believe South Florida forced 3 in this game. And some very, very good play towards the start of the second half led to just a blowout. And Boise State's offense could not do anything. South Florida's defense was impeccable. And South Florida looks like a very good team. You know, Alex Golish is a hell of a head coach, that he always gets the best out of his players. And whatever Power 4 program he goes to in a few years is very lucky. I really like the guy. You know, I don't like that he coached at Tennessee, but I think he's a really good head coach. And he's going to get a job promotion very soon. And as for Boise State, man, do they miss Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty was more impactful on that team than people might think, because they did not look good in their season. The future of this season this year does not look very bright. On to our next game, number 24 Tennessee versus Syracuse. Tennessee favored by 14. This is a game that I was thinking Syracuse would win. Coming off a season where they went 10-3, won a bowl game, and finished top 20, all in Fran Brown's first year as head coach. I think they had a good chance to win. But Tennessee, also coming off a 10-3 season, but they ended up getting trounced by Ohio State on the Buckeyes' ways to their national championship win. And it wasn't really a close game. Tennessee went up 17-0 very quickly, I believe, as the first quarter ended. And Syracuse tried to crawl back, but there was no crawling back. Tennessee wins easily, and they cover. 45-26. But Joey Aguilar, the transfer from UCLA, he looked very comfortable. He looked unstoppable in this Tennessee offense. I mean, who doesn't in a Heupel system? But still, he was slinging that rock around. And I'm not ready to say if it feels like 98, but I'll reserve judgment after they play the Dogs in Week 3. They were very impressive, though, and I should note that this game was played in Atlanta. And if recent history is any indication, that will be the only game the Volunteers play in Atlanta this season. Okay, on to our next game. Arkansas Pine Bluff at 23 Texas Tech. Not much to cover here. Texas Tech very hyped up coming into this season. Their first ever season being ranked in the preseason poll. They won 67-7, took care of business. I can't wait to see how they perform when they're really tested. Next, we got South Dakota at 22 Iowa State. Really nothing of significance here either, as Iowa State won 55-7. But I will say Iowa State quarterback Rocco Beck looked damn near flawless, though, throwing 3 touchdowns to a single incompletion. And it's not that insane stats that back it up. You turn on the film, he looked pretty good too. So shout out to Iowa State, and shout out to their kicker, Kyle Canardi, I believe his name is, kicking a school record 63-yard field goal. Insane. Can we get my Tide? Can we get Alabama on the phone with him immediately? Jeez. Okay. Georgia State at 21 Ole Miss. Ole Miss put belt to behind as they beat Georgia State 63-7. Austin Simmons, the Ole Miss quarterback, put up almost 350 passing yards, and Keywan Lacey had 3 rushing touchdowns. That Lane Kiffin offense was clicking on all cylinders. Next, Old Dominion at 20 Indiana. The Hoosiers start the year with a win over Old Dominion, but it was not very impressive, only beating the Monarchs by just 13 points, 27-14. Most importantly about this game, though, Hoosier, the Bison, made his debut. The first ever debut of Hoosier, the Bison, the new mascot for Indiana. Could he see Indiana make another run at the playoff this year under Coach Kurt Cignetti? We'll have to wait and see. Next, we have UTSA at number 19, Texas A&M. The Aggies begin Mike Elko's second year with a win over the Roadrunners of San Antonio. While it was close at half, 21-17, or just after half, when UTSA scored on the first play of the second half, Marcel Reed's 4 touchdowns led the Aggies to a 42-24 win. NC State transfer Casey Concepcion also looked amazing, scoring a receiving touchdown, and he returned a punt for 6. But, A&M is not without its worries, though. They gave up over 200 yards rushing, with UTSA running back Robert Henry Jr. doing most of the damage. Not a perfect start, but the College Station Colt will take a 18-point victory over an FBS opponent. Also notable is with 7 minutes to go in the fourth, E.J. Smith, son of Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith, got in on the action, recording a touchdown. On to another SEC, former Big 12 school, we have Illinois State at number 18, Oklahoma. The Sooners took care of business Saturday, beating the Redbirds 35-3. John Mateer looked amazing. It was only Illinois State, but he broke the Oklahoma record for most passing yards in a debut with 392. The previous holder was Heisman winner Baker Mayfield in 2015 versus Akron. All eyes are on Norman next week as it as they host the Michigan Wolverines, and I will talk about that in a later segment. Next, we have North Dakota at number 17, Kansas State. Kansas State, they played week 0, but lost to Iowa State. This was one of the more entertaining games this weekend, very surprisingly so. It was very, very close, but Kansas State ended up pulling away in the end, 38-35. But it felt so close, and that does not bode well for the Wildcats. Starting off 1-1, with their only win being just an escape versus an FCS opponent. We'll have to see, because Kansas did not look like the 17th best team in the country this weekend. I mean, they were a 25.5 point favorite. Only won by 3. But credit to North Dakota on a game well played. Okay, next we got East Texas A&M at 16 SMU. First ever game as a Division I team for the Lions of East Texas A&M. They did pretty good. They kept it within 30. As the Mustangs won 42-13. And it's impressive they kept it within 30. I mean, the spread was 50.5. SMU certainly could have done better, but it's not close enough to really warrant any mass panic on their part. Next, we have Long Island at number 15, Florida. Nothing of note, really. Very inferior competition. But Florida did look unstoppable, as they should have against an inferior opponent. The Gators outgained Long Island 451-87 and won 55-0. A lot of hype going into the season, but can Billy Napier and DJ Lagway back it up, especially when they get to their real test? We'll see. New Mexico at number 14, Michigan. The Lobos tried hard to make it interesting at points, but it was the Wolverines winning all day. The true freshman number 1 recruit in the nation, Bryce Underwood, had a solid first start for the Wolverines, passing for 250 yards and a touchdown. But honestly, the real standout for Michigan was former Crimson Tide running back Justice Haynes. Haynes had 165 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a whopping 9.2 yards per touch. If Michigan can keep this up, another win versus the Buckeyes might be in their future. Next game, we have Virginia Tech versus 13 South Carolina. Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks going up against his dad's former school. It's a very defensive affair, being 10-8 entering the fourth quarter. But the trio of Lenore Sellers, Nick Harbor, and Razul Faison helped the Gamecocks pull away 24-11. The question is, what is the ceiling for South Carolina this year? Could we see them in Atlanta or even in the college football playoff? I'm very high on South Carolina. So I think they're a contender. But we'll see. Next, we have Western Illinois at number 12, Illinois. In-state matchup, but nothing to note. Clearly, one team is way better than the other. The Illinois won 52-3. Northern Arizona at number 11, Arizona State. The Sun Devils open up the season with a win, but albeit not a very impressive one. Arizona State committed 12 penalties, but were able to sleepwalk to a 38-19 win. Sam Levitt and wide receiver Jordan Tyson did look outstanding, though. Levitt had 330 yards and 4 touchdowns, while Tyson hauled in 141 yards and 2 scores. After making the playoff last season and returning the most starters in college football, Arizona State has some serious hype to live up to. Can they find more success, or will they be a one-year wonder, kind of like TCU? Next, we have a top 10 matchup, of which we had 3 this week. Such a good week for college football. Such a good opening week. This one, number 6 Notre Dame at number 10 Miami. And actually what I call the best of those top 10 matchups. Another edition of Catholics versus Convicts. What a classic. Each team got passing touchdowns from new quarterbacks, Carson Beck for Miami and C.J. Carr from Notre Dame to tie the game at 7. And then on an amazing one-handed snag from C.J. Daniels, put the Hurricanes up 14-7 at halftime. Each team would get another touchdown before an immaculate tipped interception set up by Miami field goal, which Notre Dame would respond to with a field goal of their own. Miami still leading 24-17. Notre Dame would drive down the field with C.J. Carr getting into the end zone on a quarterback draw to tie the game 24-24 with a little over 3 minutes to go. Miami would go down the field and kick a 47-yard field goal to lead by 3 with just a minute and change. The Irish were not able to compile a winning drive as the Hurricanes' pass rush was too much to handle. Convicts win 27-24 as Miami beats a top 10 team for the first time since 2017. The last top 10 team, geez, that's a tongue twister. The last top 10 team they beat in 2017 was Notre Dame. On to our second top 10 matchup. We have number 9 LSU at number 4 Clemson. The Battle of the Tigers with a claim for the real Death Valley on the line. Both teams would get 3, and then Clemson running back Adam Randall would punch it in as the Tigers would take a 10-3 lead going into the half. The Orange Tigers, that is. LSU would score a rushing touchdown midway through the third and then throw an end zone fade at the start of the fourth to make it 17-10. The defense of the Tigers, the gold ones this time, stifled Clemson the entire second half, but Cade Klubnik had an opportunity in the red zone with under a minute left, but Harold Perkins swarmed him, causing the pass to fall incomplete and giving LSU a 17-10 win. Garrett Nussmeier had the best performance of any individual all week, recording 230 yards, a touchdown, and a win over a top 5 team on the road. But don't let just the LSU offense get the credit, though. The LSU defense held Clemson to just 31 rushing yards on 20 carries. What a performance for the LSU defense. This snaps LSU's 5-game losing streak of season openers. The last time LSU had won a season opener prior to last week was 2019, a year where they also beat Clemson that year. Now, I'm not claiming this is the second coming of that 2019 team, but it would not surprise me, based on the way they played, if LSU made a deep playoff run. Next, oh boy. Number 8, Alabama at Florida State. Oh, it's time to talk about my Tide. But let me recap it before I get into my personal opinions on it. Alabama entered Tallahassee after a mediocre first season under Coach DeBoer. But FSU had it even worse last season, going from 13-0 in 2023 to 2-10 last year. The Crimson Tide opened up the game with almost the best possible start you could have. A 97-play, 9-minute touchdown drive where Alabama ran it down their throat. This would be the last positive for the Tide Saturday. But it was a great drive. It reminded me of one of those early 2010s, late 2000s Nick Saban teams. I mean, I watched a lot of Alabama games under Saban where Alabama would have a lead and they would just run the ball, take almost the entire quarter off the clock, which is how Alabama opened up the game versus Florida State. But they would not keep that momentum. The Seminoles did not take long to respond as a 40-yard bomb to Squirrel White set up a 9-yard touchdown run by Thomas Castellanos. Alabama, as is tradition, would miss a field goal, and Florida State would get the ball back and score on a 32-yard reverse to Mekhi Danzy. Alabama would go 3 and out, and Florida State would go down to kick a field goal, giving them a 17-7 lead at the half. Alabama opened up the second half with a turnover on downs, and then Castellanos immediately hit Jalen Lucas for 64 yards, and FSU would get into the end zone the next play on a 4-yard run. Florida State now up by 17. Alabama would go down and settle for 3, making it 24-10. After a Florida State punt, the Tide would get lucky as a Seminole would muff the Tide's punt. Alabama wasted the opportunity, though, as Ty Simpson threw a pass into the dirt on 4th down instead of picking up an easy first down with his legs. It was wide open. He could have easily got the first. He tried to throw it instead, and he underthrew Ryan Williams. The Bama defense would come through, though, and force a 3 and out, and Ty Simpson would lead Bama on a drive that ended with a 6-yard touchdown pass to Rico Scott. The hope was short-lived, though, as Florida State then scored a rushing touchdown with 7 minutes left and what proved to be the dagger as Florida State defeated Alabama 31-17. This snaps a 23-year-long streak of season-opening wins for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay, enough of that. On to our next game, Montana State at 7 Oregon. No notes. Oregon and Dante Moore did what was expected, and they won 59-13. Marshall at number 5, Georgia. Similar story, exactly what was expected. Georgia looks like Georgia. Zachariah Branch looks really good. He had nearly 100 yards and a touchdown. Georgia wins 45-7. In Nevada at number 2, Penn State. Again, no surprises here. Nittany Lions win 46-11. Then we have the game that everybody was looking forward to. The most hyped up season opener in history. The defending national champs versus preseason number 1. The number 1 Texas Longhorns at number 3 Ohio State. Very hyped up, like I said. And it was the debut of Arch Manning. A rematch of last year's semifinal. It had all the makings of just an incredible game. And it turned out to be a pure defensive battle. I mean, some people were disappointed it didn't live up to the hype, but maybe y'all just don't like defense like I do. It was scoreless until the Buckeyes scored from 4th and goal from the 1. That would give them a 7-0 lead going into half. And then midway through the third, Texas came up short on 4th and goal from the 1. Truly a game of inches, folks. Shortly into the 4th, Julian Sayin would throw a bomb to Carnell Tate in what proved to be the dagger. The Longhorns would reach the end zone with a few minutes left, but it was too late as Ohio State won 14-7. People are being very, very harsh on Arch Manning, and I get it. He was one of the most hyped up prospects ever, and he did play bad. But I think we need to credit that Buckeye defense more than we really need to be harsh on Arch Manning. Matt Patricia schemed up one hell of a game. And with all the talent on Ohio State, it's hard to imagine anyone even challenging them. Very strong performance from the defending champs. Geez, that defense looked really good. I mean, you got Caleb Downs and others, and Matt Patricia. You can say what you want about him in the NFL, but he schemed that game up pretty damn good the other day. Some NFL looks right there. But that's it for your Saturday summary.